And thank you all for staying for this panel. I am an OPEC watcher as my profession, and so I can say that, not to offend anyone, but I believe we have saved the best for last. When we had the first Global Energy Forum 2 years ago, it was just weeks after the Joint Declaration of Cooperation was announced. This was basically the first forum where the OPEC ministers brought the message about the agreement to, I would say, a largely skeptical market. Now we're 2 years in, and we get a health check, a gut check, on where this agreement stands. What I like about this forum is, as Randy Bell said, experts have come in from around the world. I mean, you are the expert community, but there is a subset here today. It's the OPEC watchers that sit in the basement dwellers at the Secretariat, who twice a year eat all the cookies, eat all the sausages, and cover in minute detail everything these ministers say. They are sitting in the front row. I am expecting you to ask questions. So without further ado, let me introduce the leadership of OPEC for 2018, UAE's Minister of Energy and Industry, Suhail Mazrouei. And the man who has been there from the beginning of the Joint Declaration of Cooperation, I call him the chief oil diplomat, His Excellency Secretary General Mohammed Barkindo. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and then our excellent mic runners are going to come to you. And if you don't ask questions, I'm going to start calling some of you out. So, without further ado, Your Excellencies, can you give us an assessment of 2018? This seems like it's been a very challenging year for OPEC. There have been looming questions about the health of the global economy because of fears about trade wars and slowdowns in demand, potentially. There have been questions from Washington about, OPEC, criticism of OPEC. And we've had the fourth quarter, which was an extremely volatile quarter for prices. So can you sort of look back on the year, talk about what your challenges were, your goals, and sort of give yourself a sort of grade for how the year went? Minister?
Thank you, Helima. And it's great to see this crowd, even though we are in the evening of the second day. So I think that's a testimony that it's working. Let's go back to the same time last year. Same time last year, we were exiting a year of a $53 average, a year of uncertainty on how OPEC and non-OPEC going to continue in the second year, and is it going to be over when the mission is going to be accomplished? Those are the main questions that we had last year when we met. And the first 6 months of the year, we have demonstrated discipline, I think, both OPEC and non-OPEC. We stood in course to deliver the promise. Yeah. So when we met in June, the first 6 months of the year, we took care of the remainder of the problem, which was the imbalance in the market. We achieved it. I'm not happy. So I'm fully happy with the first half of the year. The second half of the year, I was not happy with the fluctuation or that we have seen in the market. But when I look at the other markets as well, we had a shake in almost all of the indices on plays of the geopolitics, sanctions, a combination of the potential of tension between China and the U.S. going to a trade war, and all of the political problems. I think the market was not steady, and it was not good for us as producers, neither for the consumers. Lots of rumors, and but I think that drove us when we met in Abu Dhabi during ADIPEC to change the strategy. So I think the fact that is the group of OPEC, non-OPEC working. I think the group are working. If we have to increase production, we will. If we have to reduce production, we will. The objective, the target is meeting that balance of the market, trying to stay on course on maintaining the 5 years average. I think that's what we would require for a healthy economy and for the consuming nations to prosper and develop.
Secretary General?
Thank you, Helima, and good evening, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Let me also join His Excellency Suhail Al-Mazrouei in once again congratulating Atlantic Council for establishing this forum within such a relatively short time to be the forum to attend early in the year, to take stock of the outgoing year, and then also to benefit from highly esteemed and resourceful persons like my friend Amos, my brother Dr. Soon and Adams and Jafar and many others that I met. We just come in from the Christmas and New Year break, so there's no better place to converge than in Abu Dhabi. And we're very glad to be here. I've had several meetings today and extremely beneficial. Now, your question is quite apt on 2018, but I must say, I know my brother Suhail Al-Mazrouei is very humble and sometimes shy. But beginning 2018, as president of the OPEC conference, he fitted what the Oxford Dictionary defines statesmanship as the skillful, if I correctly remember my English language, it's as a skillful management of statecraft. I think he has demonstrated that throughout 2018, leading the pack, not only within OPEC, but with the non-OPEC, to navigate ourselves through this eventful year. Early in Q2, no less an institution than the IEA came out with a verdict of mission accomplished, that we should just pause and probably walk away and congratulate ourselves. But I remember he said no, we should not beat our chest. We should not declare mission accomplished. We have a job to do. The declaration of cooperation, the decision to adjust the market by 1.8 million barrels a day must continue until we're able to help the market to bring down inventories to the 5-year average that we chose for ourselves way back in 2016 as the metrics to use in rebalancing the market. And then we came to June, and the numbers showed that we had overshot our target. The inventories had actually fallen below the 5-year average, I think by probably 32 or so million barrels. And if you step back to think what happened from January 2017, when we started implementing this deal, to use the fashionable word in Washington these days, is about deals. It took us 18 months to June 2018, 18 months focusing on helping the market to bring down the inventories to the 5-year average. When we found that we had overshot, to reverse ourselves was a complex decision, and in terms of implementing it was also complex. But probably observers and analysts would think that it's just about mathematics or arithmetic. It's much more than that. because everything had to reverse. As I told some colleagues this morning, it's like reversing a VLCC. You know, if you ask shippers, they will tell you how difficult it is to reverse a VLCC. And then we did that. Now, one of the lessons I have learned personally, and the same thing I think with Suhail, and I got this morning in my round table with the financial guys, is that in turning that VLCC in June, beginning with St. Petersburg, our meeting in St. Petersburg, it was not done in a very orderly manner. So the market started speculating. So this is one of the lessons I have learned today at Atlantic Council. And then coming down to December, when we are faced with the expiration of the implementation of the 1.8, and then we were facing also bearish focus for 2019 in terms of cooling down of the global economy, as confirmed by the IMF, the Fed, and other institutions, and again, surge in non-OPEC supply. When we started the year in January, I think our forecast was probably about 1.5 or so million barrels a day increase. By December, we came up with a figure of nearly 2.5 million barrels non-OPEC supply. Most of that, of course, from the shale basins. The global economy was cooling down. Demand was being revised down. So it was a very contentious situation, and thanks to our president of the conference, Suhail Mazrouei, working with his Russian counterpart Novak and others to try to get us on course, because from history, every time we move from one level to another, it becomes so contentious and so complex. So you need a steady hand leadership, and I think we're extremely lucky to have Suhail leading the pack in 2018. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to talk with you about the actual 1.2 million barrel a day cut. There was some in the market that said it was insufficient because of concerns about slowdown in demand, particularly concerns about China. You needed to do more because of the demand outlook. And then there were others who said, well, this is just giving a lifeline to shale, and we're going to have more explosive shale growth that will overwhelm the agreement. So how would you respond to people who basically say, demand is weak, shale is going to grow, is this agreement, is the 1.2 million barrels really going to be effective?
I think, first of all, I would like to thank Mohammed, and I think he gave me more than what I deserve. Without a capable secretariat and secretary general and two of my colleagues who were running the GMMC, we wouldn't achieve what we have achieved in 2018. But I think we don't listen, first of all, to those who are either very pessimistic or very optimistic as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if we are to listen to them, we wouldn't have been doing what we have been doing for the past, since the beginning of the year. But I think OPEC have changed, especially in the past 2 years. We have become more open, more inclusive. We take data from all sources. We listen to analysts. We listen to heads of state. Sometimes we get criticized, well, why are we listening, or should we react or not? But we do listen. And I think part of the opening up to all sources of information, integrating with the IEA, the EIA, the IEF, and all. So when we analyze the market and what is the requirement of the adjustment, it's not done in isolation of the views of others. So we look at all of the independent sources, what is their expectation of the growth demand, of the growth on demand, and some people are very pessimistic about 2019. I am not. I don't think we are going to see a financial crisis like some people are saying. I think if we do, if every market have someone who is doing what we are doing, I think we can always balance, adjust, and grow with a reasonable growth. A very high growth in demand is not sustainable. We know that.
Right.
But what we are planning for 2019 is, even if there is a slowdown, we're ready for it. We planned for it, and I think 1.2 is enough. The question was, should we do it for longer than 6 months?
Okay.
And I think we had a long debate,
Okay.
because there are concerns that there will be more shortage on supply other than us
Right.
from the rest of the world. And as you know, there are two countries which they used to be major producers are not included in the deal. And I think there could be some reduction from those two countries, which is not included. So I don't agree with the fact that we should do more. I think 1.2 is enough. Just wait for a quarter, and then you will see that we are right again.
Secretary General?
The decision, as complex as it was, I can confirm to you, was data-driven. The data was very clear in terms of the demand projection for 2019, when we revised down from about 1.5 to 1.3 in December. And we also revised upwards the non-OPEC supply to about 2.2 million barrels a day. And according to our November monthly, if you recall, the delta in terms of the balance was in the region of about 1.1 to 1.2. And hence, the decision for OPEC member countries to contribute 800,000 barrels a day, and then about 400 or so from non-OPEC. And as Suhail has just said, we are confident that with high level of conformity by all the participating countries, would be able to navigate through the 4 quarters and on the average have a balanced market for the year, which remains our principal objective.
So Secretary General, I'm going to stay with you, because when we were here 2 years ago, as I mentioned, in the inaugural Global Energy Forum, the agreement with non-OPEC was getting a lot of skepticism in the market. People were saying, how can you work with a country like Russia, which in the past had sort of been skeptical when asked about cooperation with OPEC? People just did not believe in the market that this agreement that was seen potentially as a shotgun marriage could last. Could you talk about the status of the relationship with Russia? Is this a relationship that's built to last? And what type of framework do you think it's going to take going forward?
Yes, I recall 2 years ago the buzzword around the conference, the Atlantic Council conference, was about this newfound love between ourselves and the Russian Federation. I think the skepticism was more of a baggage of our history with the Russian Federation way back when we had attempted before to strike some relationship with them. In particular, I think 2008, during the global financial crisis, when it was apparent that we needed to be proactive in a big way to avoid a crash. Russia showed up. Unfortunately, they could not participate in that decision. It turned out, if I recall, in Oran in Algiers to be some fiasco. And people sometimes hardly forget. Yeah. And when we started this round, those of us who, especially some of us who witnessed the fiasco in Algiers, were very, very skeptical. But times change, and we've been able to bring them on board, and not only Russia, but about 10 other producing countries from the non-OPEC. And in this innovative organ of the GMMC, we were able to get the Russian Federation and Kuwait and later Saudi Arabia co-chairing. They have been participating with us. They have been implementing their own part of the bargain. I think we have come a long way since then. And as Suhail has just mentioned, we are discussing now on how to institutionalize this charter, of which the Russian Federation will continue to play a leadership role.
Where is the charter, sir?
Well, the charter was, the draft charter was initialed. I think we agreed, as we mentioned after the ministerial meeting, that there is a 3 months window. So by end of March, we are expecting to finalize it.
Okay.
Mohammed and the Secretariat, they are following up with the different countries. I don't think it was an issue of the charter itself, but the fact that some countries, they would require Ministry of Foreign Affairs to endorse a charter, some others, they would have to take it to Parliament. But in general, every country was comfortable. And we have taken every comment that we received from every individual country. I think there was a misunderstanding of the charter. People are thinking, is this going to be another OPEC, or is OPEC is expanding? And I don't think that is the interest for or the intention of the charter. The charter is rather a forum that makes OPEC and non-OPEC work together. It's similar to the structure that we have today, but I think everyone, including Russia, are keen to continue working together. The OPEC, as I mentioned, have changed. We're not going to do things naively like before alone. We are going to work with the rest of the producers, and we will do our share, but we are not ready to cut like what we used to cut in the past, 4 million barrels or 5 million barrels, to just adjust for the market. Right. And I think the fact that this is understood by all of the countries that have joined us, and that what made this agreement and the conformity level from all countries this time, since we started 2 years ago, different than the history. If we just trusted the history, we would have been doing the deal that we have done.
Now I'm just about to open it up to questions, but the final one for me is, how would you respond to your critics? What do they get wrong about OPEC?
I don't know. There is. I think what they got wrong is they think of the beginning, and they think nothing have changed. Russia have changed. We have changed. I think the producers from the United States have changed as well. And no one was expecting that the Canadian producers in Alberta would cut production. It happened. Yeah. When people now and investors are looking. So we are moving from an environment where only companies or major companies are controlling the productions to a market where so many investors are investing their money. We don't want them to lose their money. Right. So now I think OPEC is not a cartel. OPEC is a concerned group of producers who are going to work with the consumers to ensure that they supply them with the right crude, and ensure it will flow for years and years. The issue, if we're not doing it right, and if it's in our favor and the price is too high, then it will not be sustainable. And if it is the other way around, if the price is so low, investors will quit. And it's not countries, as I said, investing, it's investors who are investing the money. They will quit, and we will have a shortage in the market, and we cannot afford that.
Secretary General, how would you respond? What would a world without OPEC look like?
Well, maybe you should pose this question to somebody sitting there near you, whom we have heard from the grapevine is using his faculty in CAPSAC to undertake this very important study. So Adam Suniski, I think, is the professor who should tell us at least the preliminary findings of his study, what the world would be without OPEC. Adams, would you like to take the floor?
Actually, well,
he needs a microphone.
The man who needs no introduction. With that, Adam Szymanski, you're on the hot seat.
I'll make this very short. We would have much greater volatility in oil prices, and this is not a good thing for the global economy. What we are able to show in a peer-reviewed academic study using very solid economic assumptions was that the existence of OPEC's spare capacity and the use of that spare capacity reduces the volatility of oil prices and provides a benefit to the global economy that could be as high as $200 billion per year.
Wow.
Maybe we should clap for that.
Thank you.
Now I've become the mic runner, so let's go to questions. Actually, I am going to call out Hadley Gamble from CNBC, the media partner of the Global Energy Forum. So Hadley, I'm going to bring the mic over to you.
You definitely saved the best for last, I have to say. Hadley Gamble, CNBC. Gentlemen, I have to ask you, we're having a lot of conversations, obviously, about what you consider a great success in terms of this OPEC Plus agreement and the relationship with Russia, and how important, as you say, Mr. Barkindo, that times are changing and we have to continue the conversation now. We have to work in a new narrative. Many people would say, of course, the fight for market share, that ship has sailed. Can you shed some light, both of you, in terms of your conversations with other producers, shale producers, with those in the United States, particularly within the Trump administration, as you work to balance the markets? What is that going to look like going forward? Because as you say, times have changed and that conversation actually has to happen. So,
well, I will have a crack at that, and then Mohammed can carry on. Because Mohammed, I think a fair word to Mohammed, he has been very engaging with everyone. He talked to everyone, he engaged with everyone, and including the shale oil producers. So we started, I think, 2 years ago, engaging with them during the Sarah Week. Of course, they brought their lawyers, and everyone was, I think Helima was there. They were kind of, they want to talk, but at the same time, they were scared that we are going to invite them to join OPEC or something. But the talk was around collaboration on understanding the potential, what is coming, in order for us to balance the market. It's not a commercial talk at all. And we're not expecting them to work with us or to share all of the data. But I think we are living today in a world where data sharing would result in a more planning. The shale oil producers are the main beneficiaries of the lack of fluctuation. I mean, if the fluctuation in the market, if it goes to $35 or $40, especially today, with them trucking some of that production, I think those producers or those investors are losing money. We don't want that to happen. We would like in OPEC that those shale producers continue producing. We need them. Actually, the economy of the world cannot afford not having them. So we don't see them as competitors. I think we see them as a complementing, but there is a risk if they overdo it, like they did in the past. I mean, it will take 2 years to adjust if there is a huge overproduction like what we have seen in the past. And it took us almost 18 months, like Mohammed said, to correct the market. We don't want to see 2014 and 2015 and 16 again. We would like to avoid it as much as possible. Therefore, we see a need for us to compare notes, see their production, and any breakthrough that they have in the shale oil production, we benefit from as well. Our production costs have reduced significantly because of the success of the shale oil. So I think we will continue the dialogue. Sarah Week probably is a good venue. So we are always welcoming them, and we welcome them, and we invite them always to attend whenever we have a conference in Vienna.
Secretary General, anything to add?
It was an ice-breaking meeting, which I think one of the networks called it bread breaking. When we initiated it, I was not confident that they would even respond to our invitation because of the antitrust encumbrances and so on. But surprisingly, they came up, they showed up, and in large numbers they came. It was a very joyful evening when one of the chiefs from Continental showed up, and even the rest of his colleagues were surprised that he showed up. Harold, are you sure you are in the right hall? Are you sure you are at the right meeting? And everybody was clapping when he came in. And then he looked at me, he said, "Hi, Mr. OPEC." I said, "Hi, Mr. Continental." And his colleagues selected him, since they have no group, selected him to be their chairman that evening. So he should sit across me, and he should represent them in the negotiations. So it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was bread breaking, and we had a very open and frank discussions. We shared with them our data, and they shared with us their experience. And they were the ones who told us about these 100 or so companies that had folded up, had filed for bankruptcy as a result of the downturn. And they confessed to us in that room, all of them were affected. They had slashed their capex, they had slashed their workforce, and so on. And they, in the presence of the antitrust lawyer, he told us that we in OPEC saved them. We saved the industry, and we saved the independent producers in the basins. That without what we did in December of 2016, it would have been worse than a bloodbath. And secondly, they also welcomed this ice-breaking, bread-breaking meeting, and they agreed with us that we are all in the same boat, we belong to the same industry, and that we should continue. They were the ones who asked us to continue this dialogue with them. So I think it's an important step.
Yeah.
We have broken this barrier, just like we did with the financial community as well. We went to the city in New York, and we met with the financial players, the big hedge funds. Their role in the evolution of the market continues to grow. And we have been working in silos. We sit down in the Secretariat as basically supply-demand analysts that we are, oblivious of what is happening around us. And gradually, we are seeing that these guys are the ones dictating the pace of movements in the market. So we had to respond to the vision of the ministers in the conference that, look, hey, it's now time, we have to come out of our comfort zones in the Secretariat and reach out to these key important players, be the shale producers in the basins, the short cycle players, be they the financial markets. We have seen in Q4, this Q4 that we are talking about, how the financial markets impacted on the decision that we took. The decision was the best decision that we could take, 1.2 million, that most people in Vienna did not give us any chance. We were able to pull through, thanks to the leadership of Suhail, who had worked tirelessly with the ministers to really come to that decision. But because we were not able to communicate this decision very well, particularly to the financial markets, who had literally taken over the market in Q4, we got a severe beating. So we have also learned that now as feedback from Atlantic Council, our meetings today. So we are taking note. We will do much better next time.
Well, I've been told we have time for about one more question, and so I will go to the gentleman right in front.
Okay, this question to Suhail, but before the question, I would like to congratulate His Excellency for outstanding year in leading OPEC. And the question is about the advice to the new president in order for him and to OPEC to excel.
Excellent question.
Very good question.
Well, I think there is first of all a system, and when we met here in Abu Dhabi, we had Mohammed and I had a very candid and an open talk with His Excellency. First of all, even though the minister is a general, but he's a very kind and a very nice person. I enjoyed knowing him better. Every time he comes to Abu Dhabi and we spend quality time understanding the pressure that he is in his country. Venezuela have lost huge production. I think that one of the reasons that Venezuela is out of the deal of cutting production along with Iran and Libya is that. So I'm not worried. I think there is a structure. The GMMC. My advice to him, first of all, keep the GMMC. So the GMMC is continuing the work. The two capable chairs of the GMMC should not be changed. Those are the two largest producers. The chemistry between them, they understand each other, they trust each other. So the fact that we should change the other members if we want, but not the two chairs of the GMMC. So that was the advice we give him, and the fact that to consult with Mohammed and the Secretariat. Mohammed come up with huge experience. He understands OPEC much more than me and much more than any minister within OPEC. He's been there in different capacities. So Mohammed carries wisdom, carries nice personality, and I think he just came from Venezuela, attending the inaugural of the President Maduro, and talking to the major producers, keeping the GMMC, stay on course, and he can, I think, deliver if he is doing that, and I think he agreed, and even the president of the country, according to what I heard from Mohammed, is also keen on those advices that we gave. I don't know, Mohammed, if you want to add to this.
No, quite correct, Your Excellency. Minister Mani Quevedo is a very capable person, an outstanding general who has joined government like other generals in DC and so on. He has probably more staying power than some of those generals that quit in DC. I just had a round of meetings with him in Caracas in preparation for his tenure as president of the conference, and we had very fruitful, very productive meetings. He is fully aligned with the advice that the president of 2018 has given, and so also is his president, President Nicolas Maduro, is very, very appreciative of the presidency of Suhail al-Mazrouei in 2018, and he's instructed Mani Quevedo in my presence to make sure that he follows his footsteps and work with all the other ministers closely to ensure that we build on what we have been able to achieve. So we're comfortable that this team will continue, and this alliance with our non-OPEC partners will be institutionalized, and we'll remove that element of uncertainty very, very soon. And 2019 will also be a balanced and successful year for our industry.
Well, I think that is an excellent way to end what I think has been an outstanding discussion and a fantastic way to close this forum. Secretary General, thank you so much for your contributions to the global energy system. Thank you so much for being such an outstanding closer of the conference. Now I'd like to invite Atlantic Council President and CEO Fred Kemp to the stage. I would like to just say one more thing before you come up. In my opening, I paid tribute to you as a diplomat, Secretary General Barkindo. I did not, Minister Mazrouei, pay tribute to the fact that at the last OPEC meeting, the last one of your presidency, when you walked in, a bunch of the financial analysts broke into applause. Now, you may have thought we were breaking into applause because the meeting had run over by a day, but we broke into applause because we were so appreciative of how gracious, how accessible, and how willing you have been as OPEC president to engage with the financial services community. So I thank you. I thank you for what you have done in Abu Dhabi to turn this into, I would argue, the preeminent forum for dialogue about a whole host of issues in energy and national security. So thank you as well.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And over to you, Fred Kemp.
First of all, how about a round of applause for Helima? And to be so praised by a financial analyst, you know, it's not easy. First of all, good evening. We're at the end. As we close out this conference, I want to thank you for spending, for those of you who were at the off-record sessions and seminars and workshops, 3 days with us. The issues we grappled with, from the future of Vienna Alliance to oil and gas 4.0, the imperative of decarbonization, the future of nuclear energy, and more, all figure centrally in our shared energy and geopolitical future. We decided to focus on a region this time. I think it worked out well, East and Southeast Asia, and it's here that so many energy and economic trends will have their greatest impact. If there's one thing we all take away from the conference, I hope that's the technological landscape is changing at an unprecedented rate. That came up everywhere. And that these changes are creating more choices, more options in the energy system than ever before, and a competitive landscape that changes constantly. The choices, the energy choices in front of us, from gas to renewables to nuclear power, are driving diversification in companies and countries. I think part of the reason this was so lively and interactive is we all have so many questions about the future. We've opened the door for big bet technologies, strengthening energy security, and reshaping the conversation around managing climate change. I must say, coming here this week, I never expected to hear the word hydrogen as often as I heard it in the last couple of days. This morning, His Excellency Al-Fallah spoke to each of these elements, reminding us that while dynamism and volatility continue to introduce challenges in the energy system, the fungibility of that system has provided us with more solutions than ever before. But the conversation also spoke to the liveliness of our discussions. We heard him speak of prices under $60 as a stress fracture from running. At least there was a comparison to the pain of going below that. And we also heard something about his sleep habits. In the next year, the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center will be using the discussions and insights gleaned from this year's forum to guide our work. And that's particularly important. We don't just convene, we do the work, and we hope to do the work with all of you, as Randy said earlier. I personally hope that we can engage with you again here next year, but also in the meantime. So before I close and pass to Minister Mazrouei, I want to thank him. You properly introduced him as a statesman and the definition of a statesman. So thank you so much. It's been an honor working with you these last years.
Thank you.
Your team is amazing. Dr. Matar is amazing. It's an honor for us to work with all of you, with you and your team. I also want to thank our partners at ADNOC, at Mubadala, at Masdar. This really is a dream team. The talent assembled at these companies and at the top of these companies is really breathtaking. I'd like to thank our knowledge partners at CAPSARC, and of course the generous support of our platinum partner, Crescent Petroleum. And I see, Ahmed, you're still here. Please pass our thanks to Majid. And from CAPSARC, Adam, thank you so much for being here. And our official carrier, Etihad, and the rest of those who made the support possible. And then before I pass to Minister Mazrouei, please, a big round of applause to everyone on the Atlantic Council team who brought all this together, and to the hotel and everybody else who worked on this. Thank you so much. It's the best team in the business, and if you think they're not tired because they look so fresh, it's just not right. They are exhausted, but they put in just a great work. So thank you all. With that, I want to turn to Minister Mazrouei to close our program. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Fred. I would like, first of all, to echo Fred's thank to the sponsors and to the team. I would call them one team. Everyone who have worked day and night and I can assure you, they worked the day we closed the last conference last year. So they start working from that day, and they will continue working as of tomorrow, working until we see you again next year. That team of capable young individuals, girls and boys, thank you very much. You have done a great job. And the second thing that I would like to close with is the fact that the need for such a dialogue to complement the technical discussion that we would have the remaining of the week. The talk about technologies, talk about how can we make life easier for the next generations from the challenges that we have. If we have challenges and environmental challenges, how can we make the oil and gas and other fossil fuel more environmentally friendly? And I can tell you that there is a commitment from OPEC, producing nations, to work with the consuming nations to make the hydrocarbon or the fossil fuel a cleaner, because we cannot do otherwise. We would require this form of energy, and we would always work to make it cleaner. And I am very optimistic to see that technology have evolved, even in the past 3 to 4 years, on gas to save huge gas volumes in the electricity sector. I didn't understand the electricity sector. I dived in it in the past 4 years as we put the strategy, and we have learned that we need to do a changeover to the new CCGT. They save 30% of the gas, which means cutting emissions by 40% or more. UAE is committed to diversification of energy sources, and this conference or this forum ahead of the conference that we have on the renewable energy is the right venue to demonstrate what are we doing to the rest of the world, and to learn from the rest of the world what they have done. I'm really proud of what Fred and his team have accomplished during the past 2 years, and this year I think it's a success. But I always challenge Fred that I told him we need to improve next year. Next year needs to be better than this year, and we need to be. We will promise you that we will be more. We will focus more on specifics. We will bring more talk about technologies, artificial intelligence, and the things that are shaping up our future. And we will bring as well some young people to participate. I think what we need to do, Fred, is to engage with more students from the universities to attend and invite them. We have done that in other conferences. So one of the improvements that we would like to do is to bring young people. And to all of the partners, please bring those young individuals. If you are in the media, bring those young analysts and young reporters. It's good for them to, you're young. Everyone is young here. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those who are just joining, the year one joiners, the freshmen, and of course, young is by definition young by heart, and don't look at us with the white. I'm still young as well. So I think we will leave you with a thank you. Thank you for staying with us until this. I think it's 7:15 now. It's a testimony of the success that you are still with us, and we still have a talk to do and a dinner probably. But we look forward to your participation at the remaining of the week. It's going to be an interesting and engaging week where the future of energy is going to be discussed. Thank you very much, and thank you, Fred. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this officially concludes the 2019 Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum in Abu Dhabi. Please join us for a reception at Azura on the 3rd floor of the hotel. Thank you.
We're all 19 years old. This thing never stops. Films, movies, commercials.